Crypto markets continuing to heat up. Today we'll be breaking down a handful of tokens, small coins as well as Bitcoin, ETH, all that good stuff for you guys. It's going to be a good show, so make sure and stick around for all that. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Joining me, of course, Mr. Gareth Soloway, jumping into trade with us today. How's it going, Gareth?
Good. Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to slide in on a few things. I want to go over to the Kobe EC tweet right here. Breaking crypto markets have officially added another 500 billion of market cap since May 1st. So now Bitcoin's up 22% this month, 5% away from making a new all-time high. And of course, all of this coming off of the potential of an ETH ETF approval. There's been a lot of rumors on that. So I just want to jump into Bitcoin up front and take a look at where it's currently at, in your opinion, and where Bitcoin might be going in the short term. Take a look. Let us know.
Yeah, sure. So let's jump right into the chart here. And the beauty of this is that this is what's called a downsloping channel. And both of these lines are parallel. Notice again how price topped out at 74. It then pulled back to the low end, went to the high end, low end, and then back here. And what we see is when you have a parallel channel that's downsloping, generally probabilities favor a breakout to the upside. And that looks like what we're getting here with the move above this trend line. So now the kicker is this, is you'd like to see price stay above this yellow trend line, which is around the 69,000 level. So ideally, if you're a bull, you want to see that hold. But as long as it stays above there, then 74,000 is your double top approximately. And honestly, you're probably headed even higher than that. So this is a great consolidation pattern. And the key to think about consolidation is after it ran a marathon. So if we take a look here, let me draw this in. So essentially, Bitcoin went from about 35,000 to 74,000. That was a marathon for it. After a marathon, it needs to digest or refuel. This is the refueling going on, and then it can make another move to the upside. So overall, this is a very, very bullish chart as long as it stays above 69,000.
So 69 is the mark. Of course, a lot of the market movement right now has been happening off of the situation with ETH and the ETF. Here's the SEC saying to exchanges that it's leaning toward, this is the SEC saying it's leaning toward approving the spot ETF. Of course, with some changes to some of these exchange-traded funds. This, of course, would be big news. Big news because we've seen such bearishness on ETH overall, and as go ETH and Bitcoin, most of the market kind of follows along with that. When you look at the Ethereum chart right now, in unison with Bitcoin, if let's say that you just look at Bitcoin versus ETH, how would you play this out if you weren't invested in either one right now and somebody said, hey, I don't know which one to go into?
So the key, and that's a good question. So I think the first thing to recognize is that Ethereum still has not made a new all-time high going all the way back. And so what that does is it tells us there's a little relative weakness in Ethereum. Now, Ethereum could technically have further percentage-wise to the upside, meaning that it generally outperforms in bull markets percentage-wise. But I think investors have to decide for themselves, do they want the safe bet, which is probably Bitcoin, slow and steady wins the race, or do they want to go for the knockout punch, which would be Ethereum? If the ETF gets approved, it could go up exponentially. So I think it's really about personal preference in this situation. If we take a look at the chart here on Ethereum, what we had was this beautiful consolidation off of this recent move. And look at this this sloping trend line, this upsloping one going all the way back to October of 2023. And notice how just recently it was right on that, and then we saw that big pop to the upside. Notice that Ethereum pushed up to about 3,800 and change, but it's now retraced back below this little pivot high right here. So this is your first roadblock for Ethereum, just underneath 38,000, 3,800. And if it can get through that, you should retest the 4,100 high. But again, right now, this is a great breakout on the bigger play. What I would do on this chart, so it's hard to chase it. If you're not long Ethereum already, I mean, do you really want to pay up 20% from the last couple days? What I would do is look for a bullish consolidation back down a little bit and then buy the retrace on this if you're interested.
Okay. All right. Well, one thing to be aware of right now for some of you guys, and everybody's been asking, I think, out there on crypto Twitter, is what is that likelihood coming through? I want to kind of zoom in on that right there. Agency has made comments on the applications that, if resolved in a timely manner, could result in approvals as soon as this week. So this is super bullish news, obviously, what we've seen with ETH. And I think the market in general has responded to this. If you look at all the altcoins, even Solana to a certain extent, it has retraced some today, but almost everything has started to move. What's your percentage right now? I mean, if you look at what's happening with the SEC and Ethereum, what do you think? Do you think they're going to go ahead and let this go through?
So number one, no one expected this. I mean, pretty much everyone had written off the potential for an ETF for Ethereum to be approved this year. So this really is a curveball, and I think you place it now at 75% versus 25, maybe not. So I could see, honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see them delay it once, but they open the door here, and once the door is open, it's hard for them to shut it. So it's just a matter of, at this point, when does it get approved? Is it in the next week, like you're mentioning, or is it a little further out? But I honestly think it's coming.
Yeah, I think I agree with you and Pomp. He's saying if they approve the CTF, they're improving the entire industry, which of course we know how big ETH is in terms of the ecosystem. And a lot of the tokens, that are moving on Ethereum as well. One, of course, that we've continued to watch has been Uniswap as well. So that's going to be a big one, I think, overall. Here was Uniswap's founder, Hayden. He's basically this week says, hey, the House is planning to vote on FIT 21. We've talked about this quite a bit. FIT 21 is the bill that essentially will get digital assets pretty much approved to a certain extent and out from under the guise of Gary Gensler. If you look at the Uniswap chart, this is one of those that took a beating when that Wells notice came in. And now, do we have a chance to maybe re-enter Uniswap? What is your thought on where this goes from here?
Yeah, so looking at the chart, when you're right, we could see the big drop that it had right here, which was on that news, as you mentioned. And then essentially what ended up happening is it started to just go sideways, and you had this little downsloping trend line. We broke out above it, and then once we broke out, it's really gathered some steam. Now, as a trader, I'm watching this level right here. See how we had this kind of pop, drop, pop, bigger pop, drop into that level, again into here, and then finally it broke down. So this was support. The support level was around the 1045 level. And what that means is if we get back to 1045, which is about $1, just over $1 away, that now becomes resistance on the chart. So right now we're looking to see, can we get back to 1045, and then can it break through 1045? If you break through $10.45, you may be destined to getting back to about the $17 level in the not too distant future. But first, that 1045 level is very, very key, and that's going to be good resistance.
Yeah, and if this FIT bill goes through, Uniswap has already responded to this. It says, today we responded to the SEC Wells notice. We believe DeFi revolutionary fight to protect it. Now with the FIT 21 bill potentially carving out a special scenario for DeFi platforms, Uniswap specifically, this could really change the course of DeFi. A lot of the DeFi tokens, and obviously we know the ETH connectivity here, so a lot of opportunities here, I think, for the ETH ecosystem, which really kind of excel for sure. Nvidia has been in the news, of course. Earnings now alone drove 42% and 37% of the S&P 500. Let me zoom in on that one so you can see that one, Gareth. Company also accounted for 11% of the entire S&P 500's return over the last 12 months. So you got Q1 coming out. Their contribution so far estimated to reach around 40%. How much more on Nvidia? Do you feel like this one is just getting started, or is this thing pretty much run the course?
Yeah, so I mean, this is such a tough one because, listen, they're going to blow away earnings estimates. In fact, the whisper number is that they'll beat by $2 billion on the revenue side, and that's kind of at a base point. That's what the market's pricing in. So they have to do better than that to push it up. And I'm sure EPS-wise, they'll beat by a hefty margin as well. The biggest key for this, and this is what I'm focused on and probably all the other analysts out there are focused on, is what is their margins? So they had last quarter, it was close to 77% margins. Is that starting to come down? If it's starting to come down, then the market is going to price in peak Nvidia, meaning that it's now on the downslope with competition coming. So it's tough to know what's going to happen here. I mean, if you asked me for where will this be in a year from now or 2 years, I think it's lower than here. But in the short term, it's possible they still are the main game in town, and it could go higher still. And I think if you do get a pop, you're looking at that 1,000 even number as the key point.
Yeah, I like the scenario that is playing out right now because AI, many people will say, I think it was Druckenmiller that was talking about this the other day, that he's short on AI in the short term, but long on AI overall. It's just going to take
Yep.
some time for a lot of these projects and companies to kind of get their feet underneath them for sure.
And if you think about it, right, if you go back to the .com era when we had the bubble in .com, really short term when it was 2000, the key was to be short those companies, but then longer term, you made a lot of money by going long at that point. So I think it's the same kind of thing. AI is going to change the world. The internet changed the world. The question is, have they gotten too bloated, and is there too much competition coming in right now?
Liz, I've been researching new laptops, Gareth, and I'm seeing more integration into AI into these things. And I'm surprised at some of the features that are being dropped into these. So I think this starts to mainstream. This gets into people, business people that are utilizing, devices like that. Obviously, we'll see it in the mobile devices. Once it goes mainstream, then people start, even the retail investors start to think, oh, maybe I should start investing more in AI. Or do you go the route of looking at the ecosystem that supports it? Some people have kind of pointed at utilities. Some people have, pointed it at even, from a standpoint of where the next layer of technology would go. Are you playing any others that would kind of support the AI, we'll call it, as an industry?
So at this point, there's not a whole lot that hasn't run already. But even you're talking about utilities. Now, utilities are usually something that you buy when it's a bear market and things are horrendous because they pay a solid dividend. And we've seen stocks like NRG, which is a utility, just have incredible upside. Let me show that chart real quick here. So take a look at NRG, and again, this is a utility, and look at the run that this thing has had. Incredible upside on this kind of idea that AI is going to suck up so much energy out there. So it's tough to find. I mean, at this point, we're at a point where to be a good investor where you want to get in on the cheap side, it's very, very hard to find anything in the AI space that hasn't made a big run. So for me, for the most part, I'm on the sidelines or I'm there looking for retraces. And then once things settle down and we get some sort of correction in the stock market, then I'm going to start going fishing and picking up some of these plays, but at like a 20, 30% discount.
Well, with that in mind, there definitely are some plays out there in the crypto side of things, and one that I like is Render. Render, of course, now next move up is the question mark because we're getting ready to break maybe a breakout zone for Render. This has been a token we've been kind of pointing to for the last 18 months. What are your thoughts on this one, and where is its future?
Yeah, so this one, if we flip over to the chart, we can see that again, it's actually had a reasonably good move. In fact, you could argue it led Ethereum, and it was already starting to move up a couple weeks ago in early May, and then it's gone into consolidation mode here. And the consolidation mode, a lot of people get kind of skittish here, but this isn't a bad thing. When you consolidate in the upper range, so if we look at this move here, it started really right here at around $6.85, went to about $11.50, and at this point, notice how it's staying in the upper 25 to 30% of that entire move. As long as it stays in there, you would favor a move to the upside that at some point would break out and at least take us back to that 13 level, potentially even higher. But again, once it gets past that 13 high, it's in uncharted territory, so it's harder to gauge where it would stop. But certainly at this stage, it looks like a decently bullish chart in the near term.
Interesting. I'm gaining a little bit of confidence here, Gareth, because you've stayed bull all the way through till here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about.
And just to caveat that, like, so number one, like I'm a trader, so there'll be certain situations where, to be honest, I was even eyeing the 3,800 level on Ethereum to just do a quick short for a pullback, let's say to 35 or 3,400. But really, we've seen some impressive breakouts here. The only caveat for the crypto space that concerns me, it's not really crypto related. It would be if the stock market starts to tumble, right? So if we got in a scenario where the stock market drops 10 or 20% in a short amount of time, I do think that a lot of these cryptos would get hammered just because of the risk off scenario. But
what do you
let's
think
be fair, a lot
play?
of the technology in the crypto space is great.
Yeah, what do you think is at play that would cause an S&P to take a 20% drop?
So my biggest fear for the S&P is that we're entering a phase where inflation is still going to stay north of 3%, but we're starting to see economic data that's showing us that we are slowing. Consumers, for instance, Disney earnings, Starbucks earnings, Expedia earnings, a lot of these earnings are showing the consumer is starting to have trouble spending. Red Lobster filed for unemployment, for bankruptcy just in a day. We've seen Boston Market, Tijuana Flats, right? So the consumer is starting to stop their spending habits, and that potentially, as we know, is the backbone of the U.S. economy. And so my biggest fear is that if the consumer stops and the recession hits, if inflation is too high, can the Fed really lower interest rates substantially? And if they can't, does the stock market then start to freak out?
Yeah,
and I
it's
think
that
that's
catch
really your
22.
bear case.
Yeah, it's that catch-22 that hits a lot. With that and the potential of ETH going through, especially on this ETF, there's probably going to be a handful of other tokens. One, of course, that we like is Solana. And you can kind of talk about it right here a little bit. Bloomberg analysts now give the ETF 75. But if it's approved, get ready for all kinds of spot altcoin filings. So could we see, who knows if, wow, would that be a rumor like crazy if Solana went in for an ETF? What do you like about Solana? What do you like about Solana right now?
So the first is I will divulge that I do have a small trading short on this, right? And I'll show you guys the reason here. So basically, and please understand that this has nothing to do with over the longer term if Solana goes up or not. But I basically had this trend line right here where if we look at this and we just take this high to these lows here, right, and we just put it right through these lows, we can see that Solana ran into short-term resistance right here around 185. So the idea is just simply that on a trading basis, it should retrace back to about 158 or so, see these little pivot points. And for me, that's all I need. Just a quick little grab from that, and then I'll be out. And then we'll have to see, does it make bullish consolidation here and eventually break to the upside? And I think that could be where it's ultimately headed, is maybe further upside. But at least in the short term, I was smiling initially because you were saying I was bullish on all these things. But as a trader, I'm trading, remember? And so this to me was a good opportunity. And you can see I'm already in the money on it off this level.
Yeah. Well, it did back off slightly again. I think this is still being played out with the ETH situation.
I agree.
Another one, of course, is going to be Avalanche that actually ended up having a move yesterday afternoon. We started to see it move back into the $40 range. Avalanche overall, again, very big token in terms of real world assets. They're probably going to be one of the biggest projects out there that's going to be diving into the retail space around loyalty. So a lot of good things for the tech side of it. What about the token side of Avalanche?
Yeah, so on the Avalanche chart, what we've seen here, and I've already annotated it out, is that we just broke above a little resistance level here at around $40. So as long as it holds above 40 here, we should see further upside to the $45 level. Once we hit 45, that's going to be some significant resistance, and price will have to push through that level. It should be a pretty significant door that's closed. But again, that would be what I would look for. As long as we stay above 40, look for a continued move to 45, but then look to see how it behaves at $45 per coin here.
Yeah, we've been tracking Avalanche in terms of our own sentiment data through our market sentiment index, and this is one that has been a little bit lagging on sentiment recently, including yesterday and the day before. We started to see some upside movement. So maybe with the ETH ETF, also the FIT21 bill, maybe there's enough breadth in the market that it could move us, kind of this next level. The other token that everybody's been talking about, of course, has been XRP. XRP is getting ready to drop, most likely a stable coin. We could even see Ripple going into a public filing for an IPO. All of this could mean upside for XRP. Are you looking at the XRP chart today, and what do you think?
Yeah, so XRP is an interesting chart. So what we've got here is a chart that's still in consolidation mode here. And again, the question is, does it break out to the upside, which would be above 57 cents right here, right? So if it breaks above 57 cents, you're going to get a nice leg to the upside, maybe even as high as 70, 75 cents. On the other hand, if it breaks this upsloping trend line at around 50 cents or 49 cents, you might revisit the 42-cent low. So this is one where, as a trader, I have to be more neutral because it's stuck in between this range and it's not giving me a directional signal just yet. But I love kind of the idea there. I mean, could they go public? Could they file these type of things? And certainly that would be very positive for anyone holding their coin here, the XRP token. So definitely something of interest, but right now I would remain more in a neutral stance.
More neutral. Okay. I think we're leaning in on XRP a little bit, at least on our crypto pit, which is our own research team. They like the ecosystem, whether you're looking at Root Network, some of the things that they're doing, and of course what we'll see most likely just from the awareness around stablecoins could start to drive that one a little bit more. I want to get your opinion before we go into the outlook for Bitcoin by year end. I want to remind everybody, smash the like button. We'll love to get your feedback on these kind of videos that we're doing. And also, we've got our poll up, so fill that out. We're going to touch on the poll here in a second. But before we do that, I want to hit on your idea around these log curves. And I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see this a little bit better. And there's a range that people are now pointing to, and it's this by end of this year. Somewhere around the 149 would be the high, 108 kind of in the mid-range to the low side. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin by end of year? Is this something that could line up with what we've seen before in some of these log curves being extended out?
Yeah, so I think there actually is something to those log curves, and I've seen them before and I've used them before. And just jumping into the chart here, I want to show you guys something. I saw one of the lines was around $108,000.
Yeah, 108.
Now listen, for me, it's so hard to know, is it by year end? Is it by another point? But if we can break through the $74,000 high and really stay above 74, and let's say the stock market continues to be in a bull mode, what I think you do is you take the previous high from 2017 and you connect it through the highs of 2021. And if we do that, take a look at what actually ends up happening here. If we extend that line out, it basically brings us right up. Look at this, right up towards that.
Well, you got to go out to year end. Yeah,
right. Year end. Where is that? And you go out to year end, and you're basically right here at 107 to 108. So again, I just think that's an interesting confluence of factors here, where you're showing something, but then there's another trend line that actually kind of matches up with that 108. Now, again, I'm not going to pretend to know if this is a is this a year end target or 24-25 target, but I think the key is just taking it step by step. Can we break 74,000 first, and then we start taking a look at that next upside move?
Gareth, I'm looking at a couple of things here. I want to show you the volume. I'm going to zoom in on this on the chart. So you've got ETH volume and Bitcoin volume almost pacing each other right there. I don't know if you can see that. Let me kind of zoom in on that. 57 right there. And man, this is just floating right around 57 billion on each. If that is the case, and because many people will talk about ETH flippening and all those kind of scenarios that could play out, but would that 108 number, if that were to play out, would you say that that would be the end of that bull market at that point? Or do you think we're still in blue water?
Oh man, you bring in the tough questions. So the way I would look at it is, anytime you hit a trend line that stretches back to 2017 and is a long stretching trend line, you always assume a significant pullback. Now, again, is that 20%? Is that 30? Is it 40? Is it one of the bigger corrections like Bitcoin has off pivot tops of 70% or greater? That's the tough thing to say. But in the very least, if you ask me right now, let's say by year end we're into 108, I would be shorting it as a swing trade. But obviously my long-term outlook remains that there's further upside after that.
Yeah, bullish for that. Interesting stuff, because guys, if we're at 108 and you get regulatory alignment, you have another big ETF hitting the market, and we don't get any big major missteps by the Fed, which causes, havoc in, traditional securities. This could be one of the biggest bull runs we've seen maybe in the history of the financial markets out there. So we're going to be watching it very closely. If you guys are not following Gareth, you can go over to his website, verifiedinvesting.com. Check it out. It's really easy. And of course, we want to get in on the poll, and looks like you guys got a bunch of videos over here. So is this a new website?
It is a new website, and it's made
Okay.
for investors and traders. Everything on there, there's fear and greed. If you scroll down, there's earnings and economic data. You need anything to know anything about the markets, and it's all there. Chart analysis and
Like it.
articles. So really,
Earnings
really cool
calendar.
stuff.
Yeah, I like
Yep.
the earnings calendar there on that one. So we've got Wednesday tomorrow, Nvidia coming
Yep.
in, and then we got
Snowflake.
some.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Snowflake. Yeah, I think that's toast.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch. I'm not
We'll
short or
see.
long, so we'll see.
Yeah, Snowflake is one I'm not a big bull on. Hey Gareth, let's go over to the poll real quick before you get out of here, and I want to get your opinion. Let's take a look at the poll real quick. What happens first? ETH to 4,000, Solana to 250, Avalanche 50, and XRP to $1. Everybody is banking on ETH coming into $4,000. What do you think? What happens first here?
I'm going to go with the ETH 4000 as well.
All right,
I mean, that's not
concurring.
even a double top yet. Yeah, so usually I know I'm contrarian, but in this situation with the hype around the ETF, I think you got to think it can push up another $300 here.
All right, listen, guys, this is we're making history today with Gareth. He actually agreed with the BBN audience. So everybody's going to come back and start watching Gareth videos again, saying, "Hey, whoa, he's a bull. This guy's a bull in sheep's clothing."
Assuming we don't get a big stock market drop and the Fed doesn't screw things up.
I hear you. Believe me, everybody's watching the audience. It's a big ask. Hey, Gareth, always good seeing you. We'll definitely get you back in soon. All right?
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
You bet. Take care. All right, you guys, if you're listening in on the podcast side of things, make sure and jump over to the YouTube channel because that's where we do all these live streams. It's also where you catch the chart analysis, some of our additional stuff when we do Web3 breakdowns, all that good stuff in the gaming sector. If it's anything blockchain or crypto, you're going to catch it right here on PBN. And all of you, make sure and follow me on X if you're not already doing so. It's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.